Good afternoon and welcome back to Boomi World 2026. We are here with theCUBE in Chicago and we have just come off the back of an excellent keynote. We got a real look at the technology driving the future and the momentum of Boomi. Joining us now is one of the leaders behind that tech innovation, Ed Macosky, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Boomi. Welcome, Ed.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with one of my maybe least favorite terms, but maybe because I misunderstand it somewhat, from the keynote this morning, headless.
Yes.
You talk about the world of headless enterprise, and I think some of us, when we hear that, think, does that mean humanless?
Right.
Maybe let's talk there in terms of what it means from the perspective of tech and the moment we're at right now.
Yeah, headless is just to me, headless is about enabling your systems to not have reliability on a user experience specific to that system. So when I talked about headless earlier in the keynote, it's about, okay, in your organization, you have a whole series of applications that you rely on to run your business. And the traditional enterprise, up until recently, would have to have different teams working in different systems because they each had a head or a user experience you had to move into. Now, in order to integrate those, you have to think of them in a headless way so you can make them all work together. And with the introduction of AI, we actually help bridge to let AI be the head while the applications are headless. So the user experience comes through your agentic experiences. It makes your applications and your data more ubiquitous in your world. So it's not about no user experience. It's actually about unlocking the user experience to be multimodal and give different access to systems.
So we've seen headless on e-commerce.
Yeah.
Commerce Tools has a platform, everyone wants to be Shopify, so that's where kind of the first generation of headless. What's different about this? Is it the customization, the personalization of the interface? Is it do the humans do that? Does the agents do that? How do you see the headless aperture of the use case of agents? It's a little bit different, but
yeah, it is a little different. I mean, there is an aspect of, yes, agents are off running autonomously. So there is an aspect of there aren't humans in the loop in some cases with agents, and that's okay. Sometimes, just like integration working headlessly, sometimes there aren't humans in the loop in deterministic processes as well. What's different now is more things are becoming headless as AI is unlocking more autonomous operations that can happen. But with tools like Boomi and giving governance and giving security and those types of capabilities, we also inject human in the loop into that process when AI may attempt to overstep or access something that it doesn't need. Boomi also, as part of its process, brings a human in the loop aspect to punch out and say, hey, the AI is trying to do this. Are you sure this is allowed, or we're not allowing this? Here's why. Do you want to approve it? So yes, those are the things that are changing. It's the governance aspects, and sometimes the head is now just popping up, asking a human, is this okay?
One thing you said this morning, Ed, that I really was happy to hear was you said the SaaS apocalypse is somewhat of not a real event, right? You said SaaS is not dead, and I know Steve said that as well yesterday, and you talked about how that will change, and you mentioned deterministic as one way in which SaaS needs to plan to be, or increasingly become ASAP. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of some of the conversations you're having with partners and players in the SaaS space broadly, and how fast they're kind of able to react to the world of a deterministic action-based output.
Yeah, I think this shift is actually, I mean, first and foremost, it's forced the SaaS vendors to think of themselves as headless and deterministic engines. First, I think many of them have thought of themselves as, okay, the application I want people to work in. We've always thought of the world that way, which is why, somewhat welcome to the party. The conversations now are, okay, the SaaS vendors, the application vendors are realizing that the true value of the application isn't necessarily the user experience. A lot of these application vendors, people don't log into the apps anyway. I mean, they like to say they do, but they're off doing other things, and they're trying to get people to log in. The value is in the SaaS applications being the rules engines or the referees. Steve talked about the referees. You don't put the referee inside the player on a football pitch or in a baseball game. So these SaaS applications are moving themselves into being even more valuable in terms of being the referees for AI, trying to do things, and also then, yes, engaging users where they should be met. And those are the conversations we're now having. These application vendors are creating their own AI agents on top of their own SaaS application infrastructure to replace their UIs or augment augment their UIs in most cases today, because the world is not ready for a UI-less world entirely. But we are helping facilitate the governance and the communications and the orchestration across ecosystems, just like we always have.
You know, one of the things I want to talk to you about is that the evolution of Boomi, in two contexts. One, what you guys have done here, but also where you're going. And if you look at this event, talking to Steve and Allison, you guys are bridging deep tech with business transformation. Whether that's intentional or on accident, on purpose, it's happening. So I want to get your thoughts, and I want to give some content, get your reaction. VMware in the early days grew out of virtualization, huge community. You guys have a massively growing community. AWS started as basic building blocks for developers and startups, massive community. I know you have a relationship with AWS. Then when AWS grew, you saw the rise of Snowflake, Databricks. And in one place, Snowflake said, we're a data cloud. They weren't really a cloud, they were on Amazon. So you got this platform evolution where you guys are hitting all the boxes.
Yeah.
So the question is, as you guys see this platform, you're a lot like AWS. You got Companion, coding, skilling, they have a DevOps agent, so you start to see you guys take that same shape. How does that render itself for future products, customer value? Because in a way, that scales much faster than the classic enterprise. So it's like, do you see the same thing, or do you guys talk about that? Like, hey, we're kind of like AWS, but Boomi version?
Well, we don't say those things explicitly because we are a partner with AWS, right? We think of we say platform a lot because we truly think of ourselves as a platform, and we know ourselves as a platform. But we are a platform on top of a platform like AWS, right? We don't focus so much on the infrastructure layer. We focus just above the data layer into connecting, orchestrating, et cetera. So not using the marketing terms, but the way we think of ourselves strategically is the modern middle layer, and consistently being the modern middle layer. I'm explicitly not saying middleware, but the middle layer, because that definition changes over time. And right now, and there's always legacy. So Steve has talked about this, I've talked about this. Mainframes are still there.
And growing, by the way.
And growing, and we need to continue helping our enterprises extend the life of those and those workflows, but then bridge them into this modern enterprise where they need these agentic workflows and connect and connect them, automate them, now agentify these workloads and ensure security and activation above the data layer, all the way up to the human engagement, right? And that's what so we continue to look out in the forefront for our customers around the sharp corners of innovation, but what has always been a strategic kind of thinking and pillar for Boomi, and we used to have it as marketing message, but it's what guides us. It's simplify the complexity. In today's world, customers are just confused as heck with the amount of tools out there. What are these frameworks? What do these terms mean? Like, what does MCP even mean? And we just simplify it into business terms and help customers with outcomes. We take care of the tech for them, and we focus on the experience where they can.
I like that outcomes. Because again, why I brought in this cloud thing, because Amazon had the same challenge. You built on top of them like Snowflake did. You got the same opportunity. You're enabling and abstracting away that complexity. So the question is, how do you run your product groups now? How do you guys see them? Because that's one of the big stories coming out of Boomi World is there's a lot of cool stuff going on internally.
Yes.
Share some of the examples, because Companion went out, we heard some stories with Connect. Take us through what the reimagination of Boomi is now that we're in the full-fledged platform scaling moment.
Yeah, it's a great line of questioning and thought, because it was, I don't know, 18 months ago, 2 years ago maybe, Steve, our CEO, put a terrifying edict out to the leadership and said, I want us to focus on AI enabling or agentifying the entire company. And it was terrifying because there's all these projects out there failing. You hear about them, but you know what? We're an AI enablement company, and the only way we're going to truly learn and bring value to our customers is doing it for ourselves. And we've done so much AI agentic automation, from sales and marketing to, I talked on stage today about that example I gave with Gong, from a product feature request to, that's just one example. We've got product feature requests. We take customer feedback through presentations they send us, and so on and so forth. And as we've implemented these these solutions, we've learned and added our own product features based on us being customer zero, and we go out to our customers and then we evangelize those and work with them to show real business results through our technology.
And in that example with Gong, right, where you have a customer transcript, you're uploading it to Salesforce, it's still happening kind of after the fact right now, right? But we are moving to a world whereby that might be happening live, like this, inference between what's happening, the conversation we're having, and a system being updated is a real-time event. And obviously the data and the underlying architecture changes fundamentally. Talk a little bit about some of the things that we don't hear, like in the mainstream news cycle and tech cycle, that have impact there, though. Like, we talk about tokens a lot, about the cost of compute, etc. What are the other real challenges and, I guess, blocks to making that happen tomorrow?
Yeah, the other real challenge is, well, the reality is, even in the example you gave from Gong uploading to Salesforce, Gong's made some of their own innovations, and all of these SaaS applications where they're publishing their own MCP servers and making data available immediately, so you don't have to rely on Gong going to another application, because each of them becoming headless makes them their own component. So for Boomi, we're leveraging going directly to Gong real time based on, we'll do it because we'll queue up feedback from customers and real time pull that data and go directly through the process. That's one thing that we're seeing that's evolving. Another is this concept of, the frontier model companies and the AI companies, rightfully so, for their businesses, they're driving pure agentic use cases. But sometimes pure agentic use cases is not what an enterprise needs, because an agent calling an agent calling an agent is very, very expensive sometimes. And sometimes, or more often than not, an agent calling a tool that is just a deterministic workflow, like run payroll or submit expense report, that is a very straightforward and very cheap thing to do. So when we pull together agentic technology and we pull together deterministic workflows, Richie from Mobius talked about this on stage. The demo he gave, he said it costed $3 to run that. If that was purely agentic without Boomi underneath it, those would be agents running agents running agents, and the price, the cost has a chance to explode with token consumption.
The FinOps, we don't have a name for it yet for AI, some call it token economics, which kind of really like that term, because it's not just about the tokens, there's other costs. I've been meaning to ask you this on the last interview we did. We don't know what to call this new layer. DevOps was easy for cloud, DevSecOps, but you got this agent layer. Yesterday Mark was calling it agentic engineering, because you have builders and operators doing agents, but not like cloud native DevOps, but it's kind of the same. What do you call this layer? Because DevOps and agent infrastructure is merging, they're connecting. It's not middleware, it's completely integrated.
For right now, we're just calling it agentifying DevOps, because we're doing this ourselves, right? Somebody would be more creative than me, but we are literally doing this in our own cloud, right? We manage, just like we have a SaaS application, we have a DevOps team. Just as part of the edict that I talked about earlier with Steve, we are implementing our own agentic operational agents in production that are looking for anomalies, looking to detect things quickly, so we're not scaling more humans.
So it's an extension of DevOps.
It is an extension of DevOps.
How do you run that? How does that work? Take us through the day in the life, because this is actually a lot of activity, because there's a lot of engineering going on, but there's a lot of enablement, like DevOps. Shift left was a security thing, I'll put that in there, pipeline.
So what we've done it's tactical, but it's strategic. Rather than try to hire a new team or bring in AI experts to come in and try to learn DevOps function and learn our cloud, we've taken team members and given them career opportunities to move and become, okay, you are now responsible for agentifying our operations, and you go and do that. So skilling people the other way, giving them the opportunity to go learn this and applying their DevOps background, because too often AI experts don't understand the business side or the operational side or the enterprise side of the equation. We've taken the other approach. So for an example, I know it's not exactly the DevOps use case, but quite literally one of our QA engineers that worked in engineering worked with Gong to build that end-to-end process, and we moved him into that role, and he's going and he's agentifying all the operations, including our cloud operations as well. So,
you mentioned on stage as well, you guys have an MCP protocol. You're also going to partner or be a member of AIF. We were just at their conference in New York quite recently. Talk a little bit about the world of open source and like open weight models and all of the, I guess, inertia that still is kind of, circumventing there around what this could potentially look like 5 years from now. Like, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions, perhaps, Ed?
I think it's just going to, it's going to continue to accelerate and get larger. There will be a cycle of a proliferation of open source tooling, then there will be some level of consolidation back on the winners and who wins in that. And historically, Boomi has been a commercial product, and we've leveraged open source technology under the hood for our platform, so we're very familiar with it. Our eventing service is based on Apache Pulsar, for example, but we're very familiar. But up until now, we hadn't openly gone out and embraced the open source community, but we feel like with our Boomi Companion product line now, we're engaging developers to come into the Boomi platform because developers are now enabled to leverage our platform. And two, we're getting ourselves out in the open source community. We're working with the likes of Red Hat who do the same, to go out and survey that land, help understand who the winners are going to be on behalf of our customers, and then help simplify the management and deployment of those solutions in the enterprise. Because open source, this AI wave has brought a lot more open source into the enterprise.
A lot more building going on too.
A lot more building, a lot more, vibe coding, and these open source projects are taking off, and we're just out looking to simplify it for our customers.
So what are you going to talk about next year, since you brought that up before we came on camera? Next year at Boomi World, what's on your radar? What do you hope to accomplish?
We are laser focused on, one, we've simplified the development of agents and building that sort of, we're going to keep investing in all of these areas of our platform. The big thing I'm excited for going into next year is enabling the hybrid AI world. So open weight models and those pieces, like that is the next frontier for us, and I believe the world. It's, hey, okay, there's these central cloud managed models. Enterprises are very uncomfortable putting their enterprise data in public cloud providers, whoever they may be. They've always been, and we help customers today with connectivity, integration, automation in these private environments, and us bringing AI into those private environments, particularly in partnership with Red Hat, I'm very excited about. So over this next year, helping our enterprise customers unlock the workloads that they want to agentify that they can't, unlock those in a secure way is what I'm excited about for the next frontier.
The containers and OpenShift helps there.
Yeah.
Question on the token economics and the FinOps, because the cloud cracked the code on that, became a cost thing, all the services, let's nail them down, shut them down, or make them optimized. How do you view that now? Because you look at the costs, and I was talking to a model provider, and they say one of the biggest challenges we have when people switch models is they got to recalculate everything. So they have to run tokens to do QA. So there's a lot of hidden costs going around. So how do you think about that as you guys look at the automation and the building happening simultaneously? How should people think about the economics and the financing of this?
First and foremost, I will say, ignore the term tokenmaxxing. I think it is the most, may not be popular for some, I think it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Goes along with retard maxing, another top trend we've been hearing a lot about.
Yeah, tokenmaxxing is just
I agree, and it's getting a lot of audience, right? People are saying there's actually token leaderboards at certain companies.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and in fact, when our engineering team and token, it's not a thing. Yeah. Our output, when we look at this from an engineering standpoint, it's about the output you're developing in your code. And in fact, by token maxing, you're going to get me on a soapbox here, but by token maxing, you're incentivized to generate thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of frivolous code that nobody can manage, or agents that are doing things that nobody understands, and so on and so forth. It's about focusing on what the outcomes should be and pairing real strong developers and people who understand enterprise architecture with the power of AI to optimize the output and really hit goals. I had a situation where, yes, one of my developers, he's actually here floating around, and one of my best developers in the organization he built an application by vibe coding like in a week, and he said he 10x'd himself. He said, I had 10x my output in a week, and here it is, here's the application. I cringed and I said, how much did that cost us, right? Like, what was that? He said, $300. Wow. And it was because he knew, he's an architect, he knew exactly what he wanted to target, he understood prompt engineering. So these things like prompt engineering and understanding your spend, putting limits to your spend to actually block people from token maxing so that you can and agents from maxing out, so that you can teach and retrain agents and rebuild or architect agents in a way that they're cost effective and cost efficient.
Yeah, and the driver of the AI is more efficient. I mean, I think the token maxing came from the Jensen, hire an engineer and see how many tokens they use. In fact, there was an AWS employee that got caught using OpenClaw to generate tokens to gain the leaderboard.
I mean, it's also the basic premise of Goodhart Law, right? Like if you put a measure on something like that, it's no longer really, performance measure. It's kind of, it's counterintuitive, right? So I'm with you on that soapbox. We hear from people at the NYSE that are spending $4,000 or $5,000 a month personally on, like tokens and frontier model spend. Like it is crazy right now.
I know.
So Ed, great chatting to you. We won't end with the soapbox, we'll end with all of the great things that are happening at Boomi. Last question for you. Another thing Richie said on stage today, I believe it was Richie, but correct me if I'm wrong, was, you go through San Francisco Airport, you see a lot of logos, people are promising a lot of things, they're not delivering, right? You said, we don't promise anything, we're not going to deliver. What is the big promise for the year ahead for Boomi?
Just like last year, I literally sat at maybe not this physical desk, we were at a different location, and the promise was I wanted to come back and celebrate the wins and the true implementation of the work and the success our customers had. Checked, we did that. I will double down and say over the next year, like I said earlier, I want to unlock all of the hybrid workloads that our customers are looking for, that the enterprise is looking for, to do this in a governed, secure manner and keep their data safe, secure, in a hybrid environment versus having to go all in the cloud. So that is our next promise. We will do that with our customers and we'll come back and we'll showcase the success there too.
Well, hopefully we'll be here to see it. Thanks so much, Ed, for coming on theCUBE.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
I'm Gemma Allen. We are here live at Boomi World 2026. We are talking all things the future of connected enterprise. Don't go anywhere, we've got some great guests coming up.